All right, everyone, welcome back to my channel, Baseball Talk with Nick Morgan. Today, I am joined once again by Eli. Always a pleasure. Thank you for coming on here.
Thank you so much for having me on again. Love
Yeah,
being here, talking baseball.
it's awesome. So, Eli is a content creator for his own YouTube channel, which will be linked down below in the description. Go check him out. He's also a writer for Double G Sports. His articles will be linked down there as well. Great guy, awesome to hang out with, loves talking baseball, very knowledgeable on the sport. Definitely go check out his channel and his writings again in the description. But we're going to talk some Yankees. We're going to talk some postseason, some predictions today, and it's going to be fun. So starting off, right out of the gate here, what were your general thoughts on the Yankee season? They finished 33 and 27. What do you think?
Overall, happy with the outcome, which was a playoff spot, especially during that week span where there was a lot of losing, where, we were pretty down on them, and a lot of people thought they might not even make the playoffs in this expanded playoffs where half the teams in the MLB make it. So there was a lot of worry, but we did make it to the playoffs. But overall, I would say there was a bit of disappointment in all Yankees fans' hearts in terms of both the injuries that came back to bite us. I mean, during the first half of the season, the injuries just destroyed the team. Judge missed a lot. Stanton missed a lot. Torres was out most of the season.
DJ
Um,
missed some time too with that dumb thing.
DJ missed some time. It felt like everybody did.
Yeah.
So they did have to go with the next man up, which wasn't the best thing. And then also Severino, Canely, Paxton in the rotation that's been devastated recently down with injuries as well. So I feel like there's just some disappointment in Yankees fans in terms of the injuries, especially after we got a new trainer and a new training staff with, after Brian Cashman. Hoped that was maybe the issue.
Yeah.
But also the production of the team a little bit. Obviously everybody's happy with Luke Voit and DJ LeMahieu. But what about those guys like Brett Gardner who hit like 190 and Gary Sanchez? I think he finished the season like 118.
Yeah.
So there's just some disappointment there.
So for me, I know if I was in Aaron Boone's spot, which is very difficult as a general manager, as a manager rather, for the New York Yankees, nonetheless, like that's a huge franchise. I probably would have made the lineup a little more consistent when possible, just because we did miss Judge and Stanton a lot. But it felt like almost every day there was a new lineup being sent out. And I don't know if that affected the team whatsoever, but if you were in Boone's shoes, would you have changed anything throughout the 60-game season?
I think I wouldn't have changed just for the sole reason that half the teams in the MLB make the playoffs. I feel like Aaron Boone, as a manager, knows that the Yankees are a good enough team that they're going to make the playoffs, that their lineup, even their second string guys, the Scranton Yankees, they were called for half the season because they basically had a AAA lineup, they would make the playoffs. And they did, even with that not sketchy, but not so great lineup a lot of the time. And in Aaron Boone's shoes, I feel like in this type of situation where you're going to make the playoffs, essentially, I feel like that was his mindset. Especially after that hot streak to start the season. Like they were on fire for a couple weeks. If I were in his shoes, I wouldn't want Chapman going 2-3 days in a row. I wouldn't want Green going 2-3 days in a row. I wouldn't put you know what? Here's my one mistake. Clark Schmidt coming in for his major
Yeah.
league debut
Yeah.
and leaving with a 7.7 ERA because he came in, what was it, second and third, bases loaded, with no outs against the Orioles, which was just a terrible spot to put someone in your major league debut.
Yep.
Also, Judge, I don't think this was the manager's fault, but Judge coming back early after his injury and then getting injured or, aggravating the same injury like the first day after he came off the disabled list or injured list now, excuse me. So I don't think that was his fault, but those were just a couple flaws in terms of the Yankees. But the inconsistency in the lineup, I kind of understand because of both the 60-game season, a lot of games, like there was like 10 doubleheaders, and also that half the teams make the playoffs. So I wouldn't want to wear my guys out, especially when I'm on an injury-prone team like the Yankees.
Yeah, like just one guy off the top of my head, Aaron Hicks. He was like all over the place. He'd be hitting third,
Yeah.
he'd be hitting like sixth or fifth. It was like, obviously he's gonna still produce to an extent, but I think the situations you put him in, you do want to have like a set roll of guys, and sometimes use them as a buffer. Like if Judge is in front of you or behind you, or Voigt's in front of you or behind you, you kind of rely on the pitcher to maybe give you a few extra fastballs or just something along the line where you can hit and maybe make some runs. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the Yankees did fairly well on the year. Like 33-27, I think they were like 5 games back of the Rays. I maybe would have liked the division just because we would have been facing off against the Blue Jays. But even then, we really couldn't beat all too well this year. So we're going to get the postseason later in the bracket. That's going to be fun. The Yankees just, I don't know. It was an interesting season as a franchise, but, we have DJ LeMahieu and Luke Voigt, the first pair of teammates to win the batting average title and the home run title since 1959. I think LeMahieu hit, 350? I don't know off the top of my head. It was like 353 or something like that, maybe I want to say.
I think it was 359. I could be
359,
wrong.
okay. So he hit, right there, high 350s. And then Voigt with 22 home runs, which prorated to some like 60 home runs in a full season. Ridiculous numbers. Do either one of them, in your opinion, get the MVP nod?
I think that's tough. I honestly think I would. If I had a vote, I would vote Voigt, just
Okay.
because of the sheer amount of home runs he hit, and also just the clutch factor. Right, DJ was clutch as well, but I feel like with those home runs, Voigt was really clutch, and I'm sure his WAR is interesting this year, but I bet he won a lot of games for the Yankees that you might not realize. In a few situations, they were down, tacking solo home runs on the board, stuff like that. So I don't know if I would pick either of those guys as my MVP, but if I were, I think I would pick Voigt, especially since, LeMahieu's been a guy that's been at the top of that list for a while, and Voigt's a new guy, up and coming star kind of, even though he's 29. So I would probably give the nod to Voigt.
Okay. And then off the top of your head, do you have just an AL MVP? You said you weren't sure if you would give it to either of them. Is there someone in particular? Is it like Mike Trout again, or is it someone else?
I think it would be between Voigt and Trout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they both have very solid cases, both Trout and Voigt, but then also DJ. And LeMahieu is now the first person, I believe, in history to have a batting title in both leagues. I could be wrong about that, but at least the first person in a while.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. So LeMahieu had a great season. He had a bunch of opposite field home runs. I think he finished with 10 home runs on the year, I want to say, a few stolen bases, nice little OPS. And I do like DJ LeMahieu. I love Luke Voigt as well. But again, kind of like what you said, referencing the 22 home runs, that's just insane in a 6-game stretch. And I believe Voigt played the most amount of games consistently for the Yankees. He went on like a 35, 36-game stretch, I believe. He was in the starting lineup at least as a designated hitter.
Yeah, he was. I think he might have been the only guy who didn't have any days off due to injury,
Yeah.
even when he had that foot problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely been very reliable for the Yankees, and I want to see his WAR, like you said, because I'm sure it's up there. It's probably leading the team at least, top 3. But going back to DJ, free agent after this season, do the Yankees pick him back up? He's been great in 2019 and 2020. Do we have the money for him, the payroll? Do we bring him back for a year or two, or is it more of a longer term contract? What do you think?
I think first of all, he's definitely coming back. There's no way those seasons he's had. He wants to stay in New York. He said that in his press conference yesterday. And if the Yankees make a run in this playoffs, there's no way he doesn't come back. The Yankees obviously want him back. And I think my opinion or this is something I could go for a while about, but overall on pay of the big time players is not as much about your on-field production as the money you make off the field. DJ LeMahieu is not the type of guy who's going to make you a lot of money in terms of jersey sales, meet and greets, stuff like that, which is where the Yankees do make a lot of their money, T-shirts and other stuff like that. But he would obviously help them make a playoff push. He's not even close to a probably top 20 per year signing in terms of money. So I think the Yankees should not have a problem getting him. He wants to stay in New York, and I think he definitely will. And I honestly don't think there'll be that high of a price tag on him.
Even like the versatility alone, this man can play first, second, and third. That's huge for us because we're always injured. Like I think that right there makes a solid campaign for him. And then you look at his numbers, and it's like you have to pick this guy up again.
You have. There's no way. I think if they don't get him, it will be Brian. It'll be a field day for Yankees fans.
Oh yeah,
On Twitter with Brian Cashman.
yeah. He's I think 32 or somewhere around that age, and just like a 4 or 5 year contract, at the most maybe. But I'd love to see him in pinstripes the rest of his career. Even after that point.
Absolutely.
I think he's great, and I mean he's been an excellent performer at the plate and defensively. Yesterday he started at first base. I mean, he's won the batting title this year. He was in the running last year, then lost to Tim Anderson, and he was up there on that board with some of the top guys batting average wise. So we talked about DJ LeMahieu, but now Masahiro Tanaka is a free agent. Brett Gardner has a club option for this next upcoming season. Do we bring any of those guys back, do you think?
I don't know about Tanaka just because his up and downs with the pinstripes. But I definitely say Gardner because of the leader he is in the clubhouse and on the field. The production might not be there, but you need that veteran presence in the clubhouse.
Yep.
The Yankees really don't have that right now. I mean, you could say J.A. Happ, but this is only his second year with the Yankees, and he's been around. But I think they need to keep Gardner, especially since it's a club option. It's a 1-year cheap contract, and Gardner's probably done after that, honestly. But they do need to make some big moves this offseason, especially in terms of pitching. I wouldn't be surprised to see them keep Tanaka just because I don't know after this season, this year, how big the price tag will be. I don't think it'll be that high. So I think the Yankees could easily pick him back up if they want. And I'm sure Tanaka wants to stay in New York as well. I don't, according to his social media and just the smile that he always has on the field, I don't know why he would want to leave. But the Yankees do need to make some big moves in terms of pitching, right?
Yeah.
Whether that be prospects, shipping away some of their big-name prospects. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade away Clark Schmidt or Davey Garcia, honestly. One of those top guys this year because, first of all, their stock is so high. And second of all, they need big-name guys. I feel like they have so many guys like Jonathan Holder, Jordan Montgomery, just put out a few names that are like the young, decent pitchers.
Sure.
Clark Schmidt and Davey Garcia both project to be number 3 starters, right? They're going to be, 3.84 ERA guys every year on average is what they project to be. And I don't think they're going to be anything special. And since their stock is so high right now, I think it would be smart of Brian Cashman to ship away guys like that. Sign a Trevor Bauer. Trade for a Mike Clevenger. Some deals like that.
Now, do you think Schmidt's, very small sample size from this season is going to affect his worth? Because started in the last regular season game, wasn't really that great. His ERA inflated a lot, and I believe he did get the loss. And then, I mean, the 2 other performances he made out of the bullpen, he had like a 7.7 ERA, I believe, in those 2 time frames. Does he still have maybe the potential worth as he did maybe before he made his debut?
Absolutely. I'm sure if you were to go look at some MLB Hall of Famers, some of the best pitchers of all time, and look at their first 2 games, I wouldn't be surprised if some of them are worse than like the 7.7, something like that, 7.7 ERA that he has right now. So I don't think that affects it. And for a scout, someone who watches closely, some of the pitches he's throwing are just incredible. Like the movement on them, 86-mile-per-hour curveball, which is absolutely insane. And also against the Orioles, a lot of those hits were just weak hits, weak contact, ground balls that just found a hole, bloop hits. So yeah, I don't think his outings have hurt him.
So would you rather keep a Garcia over Schmidt? Do you have a preference there? Or do you just think it kind of, whoever can get the better return for?
I would say whoever we could get the better return for, and right now I think it's Clark Schmidt, honestly, even
Okay.
though Davy Garcia has been so good. So I would rather keep Garcia, trade Schmidt.
Okay. So you kind of touched on it a little bit before, but going into my next question here, hypothetical, we don't make the playoffs. The New York Yankees, they don't make it. Very realistic too with the teams that we could be potentially facing. Now, do you see the Yankees only going after pitching in this offseason, or what piece do you think we need for 2021? You said like a Trevor Bauer. We both talked about it last time too. Big fans of his, both of us. Do we get a Bauer for like 1 or 2 years, or do we get another piece for like long term? What are your thoughts?
You need a Bauer or someone in that category. Um, and offensively, I think you need just one
Okay.
guy that's going to stay healthy. I'm trying to think of a guy who's older and just doesn't get hurt. And I mean older, like 28 plus,
Yeah.
who's got some experience in the bigs. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I could think of a name off the top of my head, but even like a Cameron Maybin, bringing him back, a guy like that who may not be the most productive, probably an average MLB hitter, steals a lot of bases, got a lot of experience in the big leagues, and he doesn't get hurt. I think that's what the Yankees need. And he can play all three outfield positions.
Yep. All right. So I think if you are ready, we can kind of get into some of this postseason stuff here. Get into the bracket. I know you set up your full bracket, and so did I. And do you want to start like with the wild card series for both leagues and kind of move forward that way, or do you want to go one league at a time? Do you have a preference here?
Whatever you want. I
Uh,
have them listed ready.
All right, so we'll start off in the American League. I guess we'll both kind of go back and forth for each series in the wild cards. We'll start off with the Tampa Bay Rays and Blue Jays, the 1 and 8 seed in the wild card. Who do you think moves on there?
Rays, 100%.
Yeah.
Rays in 2, they sweep.
Okay. I would love to see an upset and Toronto somehow move on. I really don't think that's possible, but like my likely bracket and my bias bracket looks completely different. Like, of course, I want to see the Jays beat the Rays,
Yeah.
right? But just realistically, I think Tampa Bay wins that 10 times out of 10. And maybe the Blue Jays get one game with Tianjin Ryu or someone on the mound. I can see them taking away one, but just 2 out of 3, I don't think is going to be quite possible for them just yet, especially Tampa Bay, that loaded rotation and
Yeah.
just a super powerful offense. So now Yankees Indians, this is a fun one. And for the longest time, the Yankees didn't know if they were going to end 5th or 8th. And then no matter where they were, they didn't know who they were going to play. So it does come down to Cleveland. And I believe the Indians have home field advantage. Who is your pick here?
My pick here is the Yankees in 3,
Okay.
but Yankees massive comeback. Here's my prediction. Yankees go down in game 1. Game 2, it's a battle. Yankees down early, come back, get that rally, win games 2 and 3 of the series.
Okay.
It's going to be a huge scare for the Yankees fans because they're going to be down, and I feel like they're going to come back. I feel like that Yankees, Indians, those teams have that dynamic where it's going to be a back and forth. They're the type of teams that, because of their inconsistency, the Yankees, some games, we've seen they score 23 runs. Some games they can't get 2 runners on base.
Yeah.
And the Indians are like that too. Like some games they've absolutely raked. Some games Jose Ramirez has had 3 home runs, and some games he's had a golden sombrero. So I feel like it'll be that type of series, honestly. You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, Jose Ramirez is the MVP for AL.
Okay.
He had
Yeah.
a crazy year this year.
Insane.
Totally underrated. But that's besides the point. Yeah, I think it's going to be back and forth in terms of the games, but I do think the Yankees will come out on top, trying to put my bias aside.
Yeah, I was trying to as well, just because it's so difficult not to pick New York as a huge Yankees fan, right? But the Indians, strong top 3 in the rotation. You have Carrasco, Plesac, but then Bieber, of course, Triple Crown winner. He's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be Bieber and Cole most likely game 1, and that's going to be a tough fight. We know how good Cole is in the postseason, but we know and the abilities of Bieber just in the regular season from this year alone.
Yeah.
So, and then Tanaka starting game 2, I think the suggested starter is going to be Carrasco for Indians in game 2 of the set. And then if game 3 is necessary, I don't know who the Yankees are going to have out there, but it's going to be Zach Plesac, I believe, for Cleveland. I want to say the Yankees go ahead and win this one, just because it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be a sweep, like you said, though. I think it's going to be back and forth. Both of these teams have proven that they can be very good, but that there are some struggling aspects on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. Astros Twins. I think this is an easy one here, right? Like Minnesota has to take this one, and
Oh,
if they
yeah.
don't, there's something wrong, right?
I said Twins in 3 just because I feel like the Astros just have these weird games where the guys you've never heard of, like Miles Straw, come out and absolutely dominate. Who's like a young outfielder, and they just have a few guys who, just now and then they show some pop. So I feel like it might go to a 3, but there's no way the Twins don't win this one.
I think that would be one of the biggest upsets in the wild card series
Yes.
if the Astros is on, because really, with the extended bracket, they shouldn't have even been in the World Series or in the postseason rather this year. They were not a top 5 team. I think they were the 6th seed overall, so they would have missed, I think, by a large margin too. But you would have to say that the Twins take that, I think, 10 times out of 10.
And all baseball fans, because of the scandal,
Oh yeah.
want them to lose too.
Yep. So then, final wild card matchup in the AL: White Sox and the A's. I personally had a hard time picking this one. Who did you go with to move on?
I went the White Sox in 3 just because of those power bats. The one A's win is going to be their bullpen game. For
Okay.
every series this year, through the playoffs for the past couple of years, they've had a bullpen game because their bullpen is just so good. Starting pitching's not great. So, just from briefly thinking about it, their bullpen game they're going to win. Every other game, because their starting pitching isn't great, they're going to lose.
So I had a tough time here with this one. I did go with the Athletics. I just think that they're going to have that like spark and that sort of energy here. They won the division, and they're coming off on a pretty good season. I know they're missing Matt Chapman now, but they still have some great guys offensively and defensively. Laureano is great. Olsen is awesome, and then you have Semien, who did very well last season. I think he's having an okay year this year. I think it's going to be a 3-game series, but I am choosing Oakland to move on, just out of the sole sense where they've been here before and in recent seasons, and I think they're out and they want to win it all this year. Not saying that they will, but I think they're definitely trying to make this push, and then they're going to play well in the postseason.
Agreed.
So let's go to the. You want to do division series now for the AL or wild card series in the NL?
You're okay.
Okay. We'll keep with the AL. We'll keep chugging along with the American League. So the division series, we both had Rays and Yankees moving forward. Who'd you go with?
Rays
Yeah.
in 4.
Okay.
Yankees win 1 with Garrett Cole. Cole versus Morton. Cole wins. Other than that, Yankees are going to get absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's going to be an ugly series for Yankees fans.
Yeah. I mean, we could not beat them in the regular season, let alone now the postseason. Everyone's saying, well, the Yankees are going to be a dangerous team if they move on from the wild card. I think that's going to be the case, but not against the Tampa Bay Rays, where they have been so very dominant this entire year. I mean, they ran away with the division once they had a lead. Best team in the American League, just in general, record-wise. And like Morton, Snell, Glasnow, that's a dangerous top 3 in the rotation. Garrett Cole and Tanaka are both good in the postseason, but they both had their ups and their downs. And when they were at the bottom in the regular season this year, they did not do well against very decent teams. So
when it was,
go ahead. Yep.
I was going to say when I think it was 2 series in a row when the Yankees faced the Rays, and both Garrett Cole outings, the Rays, just teed off against them, which was surprising. And we're not even talking about their bullpen. In my opinion, the Rays have the best bullpen in the big leagues. Like, the amount of guys in their bullpen, like Pete Fairbanks, who you've never heard of, who come out throwing 102, is just incredible. They go all the way. They were my
original
original pick.
Staple of guys throwing 98 in their bullpen. It's like,
Yep.
Yeah. But even if one of Garrett Cole or Masahiro Tanaka have bad outings, I think that's it for New York. Like,
Yep.
because then we have the other to rely on, and then maybe Hap and then Davy. I don't know how they're going to play the rotation in the postseason. They might want to get a lefty in there in Hap, or they might just go Davy for number 3. But either way, I just don't think that the Yankees move on here realistically.
Agreed. No way.
But if they somehow sneak out of it, I think the momentum that they're going to carry will be huge, and that they definitely have a chance to make it past the championship series. But I don't think they move on from the DS. And then now you had Twins White Sox. I had Twins A's. Who did you pick to advance in this round of the division?
I picked White Sox over Twins in 3 just because the White Sox have just been so good,
Okay.
especially those hitters.
Yeah.
Those hitters against the Twins pitching that hasn't been great, I think they move.
Okay. I went Twins over A's. So we had different setups here, but I went Twins over A's because I think the offense is explosive for Minnesota. They have so many great guys from 1 to 9. Their pitching isn't great, but it's definitely not terrible. And I think teeing off against Oakland, they might have pretty comparable rotations. At least for those part, like, you have some good guys out with Minnesota. Ken Maeda did really good this year. But I'm choosing Minnesota over Oakland to move on to the championship series, and then you go with you said the White Sox, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So now championship series, go ahead. Who's your pick here? I think kind of touched on it, with the division series, but go ahead.
Rays sweep
Yep.
over the White Sox. Rays sweep. I'm calling it.
Yeah. I went Rays and Twins, and I think that's an easy matchup. Tampa Bay wins that again very easily. They're most likely the favorite to just go all the way this year, at least in the American League. And I really don't think they have much trouble doing so. They have very good numbers against the Yankees this year. And I think they're going to go up against the Twins, and they just do a lot better in comparison on so many different levels. Rotation, bullpen, that alone, if you could shut down the Twins, you don't necessarily need to score a bunch of runs, or the White Sox in your case. You don't need to necessarily score a lot of runs, but that Rays offense will. So I think they just do have the best team overall to advance to the World Series. So
Yeah.
go ahead. Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, the only thing that scares me about the Rays is their offense, which hasn't been amazing, but they do put the ball in play. They are smart with their bunts and their steals and reliever games and all that. So I have a lot of confidence in them.
Now, who do you think has the hardest matchup here in the AL, whether that be in the wild card series or a little bit later on, closer into October? Who has the hardest chances to move on?
I think just because it was the series that I had the most trouble deciding who was going to win, Yankees Indians, because facing the Yankees, the Indians are the underdog. On the other hand, they've been only talked about in the negative sense all season. Nobody has paid attention to them, their success, because of Clevenger and Plesac situation. Then Clevenger being traded for a bunch of prospects, and all the Indians fans were so mad at them. So they've been seen in a negative light this season. But they're out, they're a great team. And Frankie Lindor's had a down year. A couple guys like that. They've had a lot of young guys step up who haven't in the past, and they're the underdog. But I do feel like they might come out on top of the Yankees. They might surprise some people, I think.
So on the flip side of that, the easiest push has to be Tampa Bay, right? I think we both agree on that pretty easily.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll transfer over to the National League, starting off in the wild card series. Dodgers and Brewers. I mean, this series is going to be a slaughterhouse, right? Like Los Angeles takes this one in 2.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't even like that was probably one of the easiest picks to make out of this entire bracket, just because the Dodgers best team in baseball. What did they finish? 43-17, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then a positive run differential like 140 or something like that. They minimize the runs that they give up, and then they just go off offensively. Like Mookie Betts and company over there, they're set up for a lot of success here this postseason.
Definitely. And the Brewers have just been I hate to say it, but like a total disappointment this year.
Yeah.
Because everyone was talking about the Kane and Yelich hitting back to back in the lineup next to each other in the outfield. First, Kane opts out, and now Yelich is hitting 220, something
Yeah, I haven't even
horrific.
heard about Yelich this year.
Yeah,
Like he's just, yeah, that's rough. And then they just sneak in with the number 8 seed. Like it was close in the NL for quite some time. Um,
yeah.
who that last seed was going to, but yeah, I just don't see the Brewers making it very far. And then Cardinals Padres is the second matchup in the wild card series. Padres, one of the best teams in the NL, only really to the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is an easy pick for me in San Diego, just because I know Clevenger's had a little bit of issues, I believe, with something in his arm. He may be back in time. I don't really know his current health situation where that falls, but either way, I mean the Padres are just electric. Their
Yeah,
offense, they do have a nice little rotation. The bullpen isn't too bad either. I do really like the Padres for this pick. I think that's very clear.
completely agree. No way Cardinals get out of this one. No way.
Is it another 2-game series, you think?
Yep.
Yeah,
Sweep.
okay. Yep, that's what I was thinking. So this next one's fun. The Marlins and the Cubs. Who is your take?
Miami Marlins.
Okay.
Shock in the world.
All right.
Um, just because the Cubs, they haven't been bad, but same thing with some teams like the Brewers, the Indians, the Cardinals, the teams that aren't talked about. They're not talked about for a reason because they're average MLB teams. The Cubs, they're at the top, but I feel like they're just an average MLB team. And the Marlins are a hungry team, young players that haven't had that much success that are going out to shock the world.
Yeah.
My only worry is Jose Urena was hurt in yesterday's game,
Yeah.
who was going to be a big piece of the pitching staff for the Marlins. He's out, but other than that, yeah, I think the Marlins have some pretty good chances.
Yeah. Do we know if Marte is like day to day? I don't even remember. I know he got hit with the pitch and left. I think was that just like
Yeah.
precautionary?
Um, I'm not sure. I haven't
Yeah,
double checked on that, but
I haven't
yeah,
really heard much. Either
yeah,
way, I mean, the Marlins still have Brinson and Monty Harrison to go out there for him, and I think he's gonna still find his spot assuming he does come back.
yeah. Just like some other teams, when the Marlins are hot, like they were for a stretch right after they had their Corona outbreak. When they're hot, they're as hot as it gets. So if the Marlins can come out of the gates with those bets, with those guys like Lewis Brinson and Monty Harrison, who have hit around like 215, but when they're hot, like they're some of the best players in baseball, and they can absolutely drive the ball. So if those top two of the order guys, are raking, then the Marlins move on.
Yeah. And I mean, the Miami Marlins were not chalked up to do very well this year, but a
Yeah,
60-game span, they really proved that they have a young team that's pushing forward. Now, for me, my prediction is solely relying off of Yu Darvish and Kyle Hendricks doing well and just shoving in the first 2 games. But I have the Cubs moving on. This was a tough pick. I think Miami is very good. They just came off of a series win against the Yankees, which is huge because I think if they have that confidence moving forward, they're kind of like, well, we can beat a lot of teams throwing at us because the Yankees have decent pitching and which should be a pretty good offensive team. The Cubs have definitely struggled. I know Bryant's having a down year. I don't think Rizzo and Javi are really doing that great either, all too well. But I did go Cubs just because you look at the record and just on paper they are the better team. Darvish having a crazy year. I would say Cy Young, but you got to give it to Trevor Bauer. So I
yeah,
think he's going to be a runner-up for the Cy Young. And then Kyle Hendricks, who isn't doing terrible either. So just I'm relying on this Cubs starting rotation. But if the Cubs can win the first two, backed by Darvish and by Kyle Hendricks, I think that's enough for them to move on.
definitely agreed. If Darvish and Hendricks come out throwing their best, then it's going to be a slaughterhouse.
Yeah. So finally, in the wild card series, the Reds and the Braves. And when I tell you, I was so torn where to go for this pick. Who did you? Was this an easy decision for you? Like, did you kind of know off the top of your head, like, who's going to move on?
Honestly, it was hard to bring my bias out of this one just because the Reds, due to Trevor Bauer,
Yep.
are the team that we've seen the most, us as baseball fans, mainly on social media,
Yeah.
where the Reds have been so prominently featured due to Trevor Bauer, due to Sonny Gray, due to Kurt Casale, and those guys who have been in the social media spotlight because of Trevor Bauer and who we've seen, when they're hot, they're hot. And they've been rolling for the past couple weeks of the season. I think they won their last 4 series after losing 4 in a row.
Yeah.
So if they keep that momentum, then they're going to win. So that was my pick, just because if they have that same momentum, that same energy, Trevor Bauer and Sonny Gray pitch the same way. What's the rookie's name? TJ Antone.
Antone,
If
yep.
he out of the bullpen, if he pitches the way he's thrown this year, then the Reds are going to get out of it. If even one of those guys between Antone, Gray, and Bauer don't pitch the way they have been this season, I don't know if the Reds will be able to get out of it because, as we know, the Braves have those power bats and have that ability to put runs on the scoreboard no matter who they're facing.
Yeah. And for me, this pick was tough because I think one team is a lot better on the offensive spectrum and the other, pitching wise. The Reds
Yeah.
shove on the mound. Louis Castillo, Sonny Gray, Trevor Bauer, that is nasty. Top 3, that is awesome.
Yeah.
One of the best in the NL that we're seeing in the postseason. But offensively, the Braves, they have the bigger bats. Freddie Freeman did very well. Marcell Ozuna led, I think, the NL in home runs and RBIs. You still have Ronald Acuna Jr., Ozzie Albies. Those are very good offensive guys. If you look at the Reds, yes, they have some big names, but I think it's going to come down to who gets to what side of the opposing team. Will the Reds pitching dominate Atlanta, or will the Braves just absolutely come out swinging the bats very well early on? And that's what's going to come down to who advances. I think the Reds finished with a 0 run differential, so they scored just as many runs as they gave up. But in this case against the Braves, they're going to need to absolutely shove and lock down on the rotation. I did go with the Braves, and that kills me because I want to see Bauer and the Reds and everyone continue to move forward. I would love for them to upset Atlanta. But I just think that the Braves offensively, their pitching staff isn't necessarily great, but the bats I think are going to be enough to win. I think they'll put up enough runs and kind of limit the Reds' offensive abilities.
That's fair, but I feel like you forgot, but some people have forgotten about Mike Moustakas on the Reds.
Yeah.
He's finished the season super strong. Same thing with Jesse Winkler. He had, I think, I don't know if it was games or series, or it might have been days with the double headers. He had 5 home runs in straight days, something like that. And he had a lot of home runs. So I think it'll be close. I was torn on this one as well.
Yeah, I really want to go Cincinnati, and I would love, love, love to see them advance just for the purpose of me being wrong. But something at the end of the day is telling me Atlanta. I don't know. But that's going to be a fun series, most definitely. I think that's a 3-game set.
Oh, yeah.
At least.
I hope so.
All right, so division series now. We both had Dodgers and Padres squaring off against each other. This is going to be interesting as well. Who do you think comes out of here and moves on to the championship series?
I got to go with the Dodgers just because the way they played this season offensively and defensively, how well-rounded they are. Every hitter in the Dodgers lineup has hit at least 270, I think, in their everyday lineup. So you got to go with them, I feel like.
I think they're the easy picks to really go all the way here. I, again, would love to see San Diego just upset the Dodgers and move on somehow. But in a 5-game series here, I think the Dodgers do have a nice, sturdy rotation that can back their offense, which is going to be good no matter what. The Padres are a very fun team to watch. They have been in the regular season, had one of the better records in the National League, but Los Angeles just overall, I think, is the better team, and they do move on to the championship series.
Yeah, I agree.
So then now your other division series matchup for you is Cubs and Reds. In that case, are you going Reds to move on?
I went for me it was Reds Marlins.
Oh, sorry, Reds Marlins.
Yeah, because I went with the Marlins over the Cubs.
Yeah.
But I think that's either way. if the Reds have that momentum that I was talking about, the Reds would beat the Cubs or the Marlins. And in
Yeah.
this case, they would beat the Marlins. But if it's the Braves, then I think the Braves also would beat either the Cubs or the Marlins in that bracket.
Yeah. Yeah, so I had Cubs, Braves, and I think Atlanta takes it, fairly easily. I think they'll be able to tee off against some of, in my case, the Cubs' better pitchers. They may not get to Darvish right away, but it's a best of five, so they don't necessarily need the win in that first
Yeah.
game of the series. So I do think Atlanta moves on, and then it's going to be Dodgers, Braves for me, and then for you, who's your take in the championship?
Dodgers, Reds.
Dodgers, Reds. Yep. Okay. Who's your choice to move on to represent the NL?
Dodgers, of
Dodgers.
course.
Yep. Dodgers and Braves for me. Dodgers move on. I think that's very simple. They're just the better team.
Yep, Dodgers, Rays, World Series for me as well.
Yeah. So okay.
I'm proud of myself. That was my pick at the beginning of the season too.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember who I had actually. I probably because I was being a little biased in the prediction. I think I probably went with the Yankees. But of course we knew the Dodgers were going to make it in. So before we get into the World Series matchup, is there a sleeper team in the NL? And then who has the easiest and the toughest path to move all the way?
Sleeper team in the NL for me is the Reds, just because,
Yep.
as I said, that momentum, Jesse Winkler and Mike Moustakas have been hot. Like you said, Castillo, Antone, Bauer, Gray. If those pitchers are on, I think the Reds can make it very far, and I wouldn't be surprised if they have that momentum. They shock the world and make it to the World Series. Would not be surprised.
Yeah.
And that was sleeper team, and what was the other one?
Who has the toughest path and then the easiest path to go all the way? I mean, easiest path again is Dodgers, of course. Who has the toughest trail there?
I would say toughest trail is the Brewers because they have to get through the
Yeah.
Dodgers, and then chances are they would have to get through the Padres,
Yeah.
which would not be easy.
100% agree. And I think the Reds, what might be fun for them come the division series in a best of five set is that Trevor Bauer can pitch every fourth day. And he
Yes.
proved that in the regular season. So if they get him going in game one and they need him later down the line, he will be available. And this is my NL Cy Young pick right here. He's shoved this year throughout the regular season. And I think that's going to be a huge slot for the Reds. And if he can pitch two times in one series, I think they have a good chance of winning at least both of those two games.
Most definitely. Definitely. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Reds, or I don't know what they would do. Who's their managers? Bell still? Dave
Yes.
Bell?
Yep.
I don't know how he feels about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do put Bauer in the number one slot so that the chances are higher of Bauer being able to pitch twice in the series.
Yeah. So then we've made it now to the World Series matchup, Rays and Dodgers. This is gonna be an exciting, this is gonna be a thrill-seeking matchup because both of these teams are the best in their league. And assuming we get this far with both of these teams being correct, what's your take? Best of seven, Rays, Dodgers? You got it.
I think it's going to be very close. It's going to be a great series, but I have the Dodgers defeating the Rays in seven just because of the bats that the Dodgers have and the Rays don't. It's the same thing. It was the Reds in the Braves series we were talking about, where the Reds pitching is just straight dominant. The Braves bats are just straight dominant, where they have weak pitching. The Reds have not great hitting. Same thing here. Rays offense is okay. If I were to look at the stats, I'm sure they only average 2-3 runs every game. But they're the type of team that shuts teams down and then scores minimal runs but gets the job done. So just because of that factor, I think the Dodgers will beat the Rays. But 7-game series, first of all. And I also have my prediction for World Series MVP,
Okay.
AJ Pollock, who has
Wow. Okay.
just because he's raked this season. Nobody's quite talking about him, and he's just one of those clutch guys who I feel like when everyone's eyes are going to be on Cody Bellinger and Gavin Lux
And
and
Betts.
Betts and those type of guys in the World Series, Pollock's going to be clutch, and he's going to be the guy who's going to come out and he's going to hit those tough pitching, come up with the minimal runs that I was talking about that the Dodgers are going to need to beat the Rays. And I do feel like these games are going to be so close because of that pitching versus hitting matchup that I was talking about, that it's going to be one-run games every day. And unfortunately for the baseball fans and the non-baseball fans that are going to be watching, I wouldn't be surprised if a total of 10 runs aren't scored in the entire series.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. I think the Dodgers definitely have the better hitters, of course, and the Rays better rotation. You have Joe Kershaw with the Dodgers, who if he isn't on his best A game, that's going to be a little worrisome. But the Dodgers do have everyone. Like the 1 to 9 is just terribly strong in the lineup, and I do think Dodgers in 7. I didn't necessarily think of an MVP just yet, but kind of going off of another guy who just kind of isn't necessarily a Mookie Betts or a Cody Bellinger. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking Corey Seager, who has had a pretty nice run this year. Now, I don't have the numbers up with me right now, but I know he's done well. I think Pollock, as you mentioned, has also, been a sleeper player just on that team. You look at all the superstars, and you don't necessarily look into those Seagers and Pollocks, and I think it's going to be a fun matchup. The Rays and Dodgers in 7, I do think it's LA. Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, let's hope we're right. But I would love to see, just because of my biases, like if we were to go by biases, Reds Rays World Series.
Okay.
I would love to see that. Two teams, great pitching, offense that's kind of spotty, but the Reds are the team that hits homers now and then, and the Rays are a team that now and then gets bunts and blue pits and hit and runs to be able to put runs on the board. I think that would be a fascinating World Series. I would love to see that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. If I were to go off biases, I'd go Yankees and Reds. Yankees are my favorite team, but also the Yankees. That's going to be tough to face off against Bauer and
Yeah,
Gray and Castillo,
that'd
and
be great.
like if they struggle there, the Reds have a good shot. And the Reds offense might not necessarily be the better on paper, but once you get past the Garrett Cole, and you might even be able to get to Tanaka, I think the Reds Yankees would be really fun. Maybe Cincinnati would be able to come in for the win there, especially if Bauer's pitching every 4th day, and maybe as the ace in that rotation. But by space, the Yankees and Reds would be awesome. Um,
Yeah.
and going back into the division series, I'd love to see Yankees and Blue Jays in that division series in the AL. But I don't know. It's going to be fun. I know Major League Baseball has this, like, you can win money for a perfect bracket. I don't feel nearly as comfortable with my picks to go ahead and say I think I would win money. I think it's going to be very tough, and we're going to have some
Yeah.
upsetting teams, performance-wise, or just teams that really come out and shake it up a little bit that we're not used to. So it's definitely going to be a fun postseason. And before we do go, you mentioned, I think earlier on, the expanded postseason. It's not 10 teams anymore. It's now 16. That's more than a half the league. Do you prefer this format because we're seeing some of these teams that did very well towards the tail end of the year, or do you just want to go back to 3 division winners and the 2 wild card?
I'm not sure how to play in a 162 game season. That's the only thing. In this year, I don't know about it. It was great and not great this year for these reasons. First, I think it was great because since there was so few games, it was down to the wire 2 weeks to go.
Yep.
And every game mattered so much come the second half of the season. Every game felt like a playoff game. Every series felt like a playoff series. But on the other hand, because of the format of this season, I think it's unfair that the Yankees are facing the Indians, who they haven't played during the season, and the Rays are playing the Blue Jays, who they played, 16 times?
Yeah,
15? 14?
solid amount.
Yeah, so I feel like those are some interesting things to look for. Like the Cubs and the Marlins are totally different team. It's not even like some people usually you draw comparisons like, oh, the Yankees beat the Rays who lost to the Cardinals, so the
Right.
Yankees are going to be the better team, but you can't draw any maps like that this season. So I wouldn't be surprised if just because of that reason there's going to be some total off the wire brackets. But for the future, I do think 16-team playoff.
You do?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't know if I'm a fan of the whole 16 teams. I like the idea, but again, we'd have to really test in 162 games just because this year,
Yeah,
of course, I get it. And a team like the Reds really do benefit from this. But at the same time, it's like, well, I think maybe in a longer time frame, the Reds would have been a top five potentially, as a wild card team or anything. But I don't know. I'd like to see like the Marlins in there and the Brewers having a shot is fun as well. So it gets more teams in. Just half the league is a lot, but
yeah,
then it gets us more baseball to watch and it's more entertaining and there's better chances for shakeups. So I'm kind of on the fence. Once you maybe see the first few games play out here in this new format, maybe I'll change my mind or have a set answer. But yeah, I mean it's definitely gonna be fun. This year was crazy and it went
yeah,
by in like a blink of an eye. But
yeah.
yeah, all
And
right.
also, I feel like Trevor Bauer on a national television,
Oh
which
yeah.
I think he's only been on national TV once this year because of blackouts and all that. On national television, in the spotlight, doing his thing. Same thing with a guy like Luis Castillo, who we haven't seen, or for the White Sox, who for us in New York have barely been on television. Being able to see them in a playoff spotlight, which we wouldn't have seen in a regular season or in like a normal playoff spot. I think that's going to be good for baseball and a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I'm super excited because I cannot wait to watch the Reds and
Yeah, me
watch
too.
Trevor Bauer do his thing. As you said, like that's going to be incredibly awesome, especially like his how exciting he gets and energized on the mound. Like he's
Yeah,
gonna be fun to watch. The Reds in general are a team I really wanted to see do well and move on. But yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be definitely a fun postseason run for all these teams. And I want to see the Yankees go ahead and clutch it out here. But I think it's going to be it's definitely going to be something to watch for. Just this entire postseason bracket. It's new, it's fun, but it's going to be entertaining.
absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it. A lot of baseball.
Yeah, a lot of baseball coming our way here in the tail end of September, going into October. But Dodgers win the World Series, as per both Eli and my predictions here. 7 games against the Tampa Bay Rays. Los Angeles finally gets their win. I think it's going to be a really good playoff push here. And I think, Eli, if you're good, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on again.
Yeah,
Really
I really
appreciate it.
appreciate you
Love,
taking the time out.
of course. Had a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too. This is always great talking baseball. Guys, go ahead, check out Eli on YouTube using the link down below in the description. Also, his sports articles, go ahead. They will also be linked down there. Eli, thank you again for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you all for
Love
watching.
it.
I'll see you all next time. Peace.